Hi guys. I actually thought Brother So's would be done by now on theirs. So sorry about double scheduling you. So for those of you, and obviously I've changed my time today in order to get in a software shut-in fun because I'm in meetings all day today. So say hi, say where you're from. This will not be as long as we normally do, just simply because I'm under some time constraints today. We're doing this between meetings. So hi, Dory. Hi, Tina. Dory is here from Hernando, Florida, I do believe. Hi, Tina. Where are you from? Don't remember off the top of my head. So today I'm going to kind of answer a couple of questions. Hi, Lori. You're here in North Carolina, and Wanda's here from Massachusetts. Wanda, I'm going to answer your question for you today. I believe that was you who messaged me this morning. Hi, Diane. Hi, Karen. You're in from Ohio, Tina. Good deal. Good deal. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Kathy. Like I said, guys, I'm sorry I overlapped with Brother So's. I try not to do that. That's why mine is scheduled at 3:30 most times. But, it is what it is today. Hi, Sheila from West Virginia, and Connie from Texas, and Brenda. Y'all are strolling in. Thank you so much for joining today. So I had some questions this past week. One basically about removing overlaps and splitting letters, and how would I split a letter, do a split letter design in PE design. So I saw that, Margaret, that you just hatched 6 baby turkeys. I saw that on Facebook the other day. So yeah, so I thought I would talk a little bit more about the remove overlaps tool and merge and those type things in PE design and in BES4, what you can do there to remove overlaps, because you don't have the same tools. And so you're going to have to manipulate things a little bit differently. So let's start with the easy one in BES4. So we'll go there first. And once again, I see some more people coming in here. We've got people from Puyallup, Washington, and from Pennsylvania. Good to see y'all. So I said I'd start in BES4, so let me open up my BES4 here. So this was what the person was wanting to do. They have this cupcake design here, and they have the number 7, and they wanted to be able to remove the bulk of the stitching from underneath that cupcake. So you have to work at this one a little bit harder than you normally have to work at if it's a built-in design, but it's the built-in text that is really giving us a hard time. We have Pauline here from the UK. Sweet. All right, so let's start with adding in the number. She had the number 7, and she had used the All-Star Applique font. And then she went in and she added her design, which was an applique shape, and I believe it was shape number 060. So I'm going to draw that in, and we'll orient it this way. And now we'll come and bring it down here. I'm going to rotate it just a little bit more. So what is the magic trick with this? If I right mouse click and try to remove overlaps here, it's not going to do anything. Even if I take that distance down to 0, you're really not going to get much happening. You'll notice nothing happened, okay? And that's because this is currently still a font, all right? So what we have to do first is convert that font. Even though it is an applique design, we need to convert it to an applique. It'll be the same thing, but it takes it away from being a font. So now you'll see that it's no longer listed as a font. It's now an applique with a satin stitch. That's the first step. Now, if I removed overlaps from this, we would get some overlap removed, but not much. And the reason for that is there's no stitches. Only the places where the stitches cross would be removed. She wants that entire area removed. So how would I do that? Is your sound going? Can you all not hear me today? So how would I do this? Let's think about this and think about it logically. So I'm going to undo that remove overlap that I just did. Okay. And we are going to click on the red part because that's a solid line. It's a solid stitch. We're going to be able to manipulate it. So I'm going to right mouse click on that in my sequence view window, and I am going to say power copy. Thanks, girls, for letting me know you all can hear it. Karen, it is on your side. And I'm just going to draw a circle over that area that I want to be removed. So let's pull that in just a little bit because we don't want to leave too much of a gap, but you want to get pretty much all of the stitches out from underneath there. So once I've done that, I can move my cupcake over to the side, and I want to get this off of those stitches over on that opposite side. Let's double check here. I'm going to cut and paste just to make this easier so we can look at it one more time from the top. So that looks good, right? It looks like my red is going to cover the area I want to be removed. I'm going to right mouse click on it, on this piece right here, and choose remove overlapped stitches. We're going to take the distance down to 0 and click OK. Now when I remove that, you'll notice that I have that entire area removed, and there you go. Once you lay it back down, you've got your 2 layers there. And Brenda, you're focused after the stream is ended. That should help you out, just simply because when you're streaming, sometimes your bandwidth, if you've got something else going on in your house, may not be showing up good. So that's how you do a layered applique in BES4. If it's a font, it has to be converted to an applique. Weird, I know, but that's the way it works. So and remove overlaps is really, they have to have stitches overlaying on what you to remove. So when you have 2 appliques, there's really nothing there for that to remove. So that's really the key on that one. So as I said, that was our easy one today. Excuse me. And I mean, you just have to think outside of the box and to use the tools that you have. So if we went back over there and looked one more time, let me find my little button that I want to go to. There we go. Let's say you had 2 appliques, which is going to be basically the same thing. Copy that one and paste it. And let's go and arrange it and mirror that guy. So the same issue would exist here because there are no stitches, real stitches underneath that area. It would be challenging to do that. But another thing that you can do here is we can hide the top one. So let's hide that top layer. I'm going to show you all a little trick here. And we're going to go to our View tab, and we're going to turn on Ghost Mode. So you see Ghost Mode gives me that little ghost image of my design. And you can actually darken that Ghost Mode. If I come over to, let me see, Environment. Let me give it to you properly. We can increase that Ghost Mode density to make it darker to where we can actually see it, but I can't mess it up in this manner because now since it's in Ghost Mode, I can't select it over here. Same thing, you would do the exact same thing. So we're going to click on the cherry, right mouse click on it and choose Power Copy and draw where you would want to go. Now this one is a little bit more challenging, right? Because that shape is not the same, and you could grab any shape that you have, but because that shape is not the same, we need to go to our Tools tab. You're not going to let me do that, you little stink pot. Let's see what it's got underneath here. We're going to grab our fill stitch and choose our Edit Shape tool. So then you can manipulate the outline of this shape to make it be in the fill area. Let's right mouse click away from that. So you'll see how I'm manipulating that outline of the shape. And if I need to add a point, I right mouse click and choose add a point. And all we want to do is get that area over where you want the stitches removed. So this would, we would need to remove those right there. Let's right mouse click away again. There we go. I'm going to get rid of anything that I don't need in my sequence view window because we're not actually going to sew those, right? So now if we select those two parts right there, actually, we just need to grab the red circle. Right mouse click, remove overlap stitches. I still have a little bit too much down there, so hold on a second. Let me grab this fill again and edit that shape. Right mouse click away. There we go. Now let's click on that shape, right mouse click on it and choose remove overlap stitches. Take it down to 0, click OK, and that should remove that part of our cupcake design. Oops, but it did our top one as well. So let's undo. We've got it to where we can see it, so we're going to unhide everything for a second. And we're going to click on this cupcake and cut it out for a second. How did I get that little dot there? Now let's right mouse click on this one and remove the overlap stitches. Take it down to 0, click OK. There it is. Delete that part and then paste your other cupcake. Control V on your keyboard. Why did that? Oh, you know what? I didn't undo far enough, did I? I want to get back to the beginning of our cupcake before I remove those overlaps. Now let's unhide. Let's see if my cupcake's correct. Yes, it is. So now we can cut that one. Delete that little guy, right mouse click, remove overlap stitches, 0, delete, and paste. There you go. Now you've got your complete cupcake. You want to make sure you get the whole one for the top one. Otherwise, it won't be a great thing. So that is when it's applique, you do have to have a workaround. You have to think outside of your box because it would only do certain parts of that design. So just think of it that way. That gets rid of that underlying layer. It still will do the running stitches for your placement of your fabrics. So if you want to change those, then you would need to use that edit shape tool to change the shape of those, but it will still run those down there. Okay. So let's go back and see. Let's talk about P design now for a little bit. Let me find my little button there. Okay. So that was your BES trick of the day. P design, we're going to talk about this a little bit now more. Now, you have to keep in mind, well, I'm going to come back up here. For P design, it needs to be a shape that you've drawn, not a design that you've brought in from someplace else to remove an overlap or to merge a design or to set whole sewing. It has to be something that you have created with one of the drawing tools. Okay. Yeah, there was blue thread showing up underneath the icing. That's the running stitch going around, unless I had some covering stitch. And you could go in there and get a little bit more fussy with your remove overlaps if you wanted to. But in P design, it has to be something that is drawn in layout and editing for those remove overlaps, merge, and set whole sewing tools to work. If it's not an original design, then you would need to, you can't do those functions, okay? Unless you convert them to outlines or convert them to blocks, that's the deal. It has to be one of those things. So the question that came up last week was how to do a split letter design. Well, a letter is done in P design, right? In layout and editing. but it is text, and text responds differently. So in order to make text be able to have an overlap removed from it or part of it taken out of it, it has to be converted to outlines. I tried convert to blocks. Convert to blocks is not going to be your friend in this activity because then it tries to remove overlaps from multiple things and it just gets really weird. So let's go back over to the software and look and see what we've got. My nose is itching. Who's just coming? Who's coming to visit me? Yeah, Pat, that person actually asked that question on your all's group, and then she asked me this morning. So I figured I'd show it to you guys. Why is that not hiding? Okay, there we go. Thank you. All right, so let's go into our text tool and grab the text tool, and we'll type in the letter A. I picked the letter A because it's a complex letter. By that, I mean it has an inside and an outside, okay? You've got an exterior area, the outside of the A, and then you have an interior area, the inside of the A. I'm making this rather large. This is my 4x4 hoop, and we're just going to make it pretty darn big because you're wanting to split the letter. Now, you have to decide where you're going to split your letter, but that's not the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to go to our text tool. There actually are a couple of ways that we could do this. We could convert it to stitches and use our split stitches tool, but you're going to have fuzzy stitches there. Or we can do convert to outlines. I personally prefer the convert to outlines button. So let's touch convert to outlines. And what that does is it turns this into a shape like as if we drew it. You would then change your stitch, because it's such a big letter, to a fill stitch or a programmable fill stitch. Okay? Now, the easiest way to do this activity is to come in and grab your shapes tool and grab a rectangle drawing tool and draw where you want to split that design. So if you want part of the center of the A at the top of it and part at the bottom of it, then you would put it there. If you don't want that, if you want it to split right at the tip of the A, you choose. You get to pick where you want the letter to split. So let's look at, if we go into our text tool and we go to the last tool, the user map text tool, let's look and see what they did. There is a split letter font there, and it's a big font. Let's see where they split theirs, just to get an idea of where you might want to split a letter. So they did it across the center of the A and used their line as their center of their A. You can certainly do that if you want. It all depends on what you would like to do. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to split it in the center of the split of the dividing line. So we're going to drag the cursor across everything, go under Modify Overlap, and choose Remove Overlap. Now you'll notice when I move that split away, the rectangle away, I have a split letter. You can then ungroup this, and you can move your top to where you'd like it to go. And your bottom to where you'd like it to go. Then you'd come in and you would add a line. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and draw from one side to the other. That gives you a perfectly straight line. We're going to change that line to a zigzag stitch. That should be its default. And you can make that zigzag stitch as wide as you want it to be in your sewing attributes. This is your satin stitch. So let's say we want to make that a 3-inch wide, 3.5 inch, or excuse me, 3 millimeters wide zigzag width, not inches. Now, how would I get that exactly down at the bottom? We have a set of tools over here in your Arrange Copy area. Choose Arrange Copy, Horizontal Mirror Copy. Bring it down to where it's touching that bottom spot. Left click and you're done. If you want to make those both wider and stay in their space, you can hold the Shift key down and make them wider. And then you can come in and fill your text in the center of it. Cindy, I'm not understanding your question here. Could you do one letter copy so there are now two separate erased halves? You can't really erase. You could, but you could do the remove overlaps for a half and bring in the other one and do a remove overlap for the other half. But I think that's what you're asking. So let me come back over here and see if I'm getting what you're saying. So let me delete this. Let's click on our text tool. We'll put an A back in there again, click away. There we go. So evidently you can see me now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the internet here today. I am plugged in. This is the best I can't do anything else besides plug in. So we're going to go into our text tool, convert it back to outlines, change it back to a fill stitch. And if I understand what you're asking me, Cindy, could I copy that, which I'm just copying? Could I come to my home tab, grab my shapes tool, grab a rectangle, draw it over the top half, and then select it, overlap, remove overlap, delete. Okay, paste it. Let's move it to the front so we can see it. And I'm going to hide this. My dog has decided to growl today, guys, which she never does, which is pretty funny. So this is actually more complicated than the other method, just so you know. I think UPS is right, because then you have to keep in mind where you divided the first half. So if you do it the other way, it is an easier method of doing it, and it's much more precise. Yeah, I think UPS driver is dropping something off for me here today. So just letting you know, this would not be, Cindy, this would not be the way I would do it. It's much more complicated this way. Let's turn the eyeball back on and change the color. Maybe that will help us out a little bit. There we go. So now we can see what we've got going on. All right, so there's my other half. Now I can hide this so I can't select it. And let's select these two. Somehow I lost my hole in my center. So I would have gone the other way. What I can tell you is, yeah, I copied and pasted, and I didn't copy my hole that was in the center of the A. So it's easier the way I did it the first time. Just draw that rectangle down the center of that letter and split it apart. That is your easiest way to do it. So, yeah, Princess doesn't bark very often. This is a new activity for her, a new personality since we've moved into this house. She never used her voice before. But when somebody comes to drop something off, even when the wind blows the front door now, she starts barking, which is weird. So, yeah. So Cindy, even though I could do it if I worked around, I would work at it harder. But the way I did it the first time is your easiest method. So let's go back to that. If you wanted an outline around these, what would you do? Let me come back and do my original one. So here we go. We're big. Let me turn this back on and get rid of him. We're going to convert it to outlines. We're going to make our split. I'm pretty sure I may have done a lesson for this in the workbook, but I'm not positive of that. So this is where I'm going to make my split. We're going to select it all. I'm going to modify overlap, remove overlap, and get rid of this centerpiece. We're going to ungroup it again so that we can add our space in between the two centers. Okay, so pretend, actually, I'll come over here. We will take this and turn it into a fill stitch. So what I want you all to think about is if you wanted an outline around this, if I turned on the outline for those two areas, it would sew all the way around, and I'd need to grab it for the middle as well. If I only wanted around the outside, let me show you the trick. So we're going to undo everything. You would copy it, you would paste it. You would go to the shapes tool and you would turn the fill stitch off and turn the outline on. That's your first step. We'd need the outline for the center. It still goes all the way around, but that's okay because we can fix this. We're going to select piece number 4, which would be my outside, going around the outside edge. We're going to click on our select point tool and choose the select point tool. Right mouse click here, choose split at point. Right mouse click on the other side, split at point. You then have a line that you can get rid of. See how I've got that line segment there? So now it's only going to go around the upper area. Let's do the same thing for the bottom. We're going to select it, click the select point tool, right mouse click, split at point, right mouse click on the other side, split at point, go to the select tool, select it. I double clicked. You can click it, click the select patterns icon, whatever your method of doing it is. And then you have an outline around it without having the overlap that you would have if you did it the other way. Because you can't remove an overlap for that. And I actually would need a bigger hoop for this big old A. But that gives you the concept, that gives you the idea, and it allows you to do what you would want to do. So let's talk about setting hole sewing here for a minute. Why did I have to copy and paste? Because I can't, if I split at point on the original one, I wouldn't have a fill stitch anymore. So that's why you copy and paste the first one. That gives you 2. One can have a fill stitch on, one can have the outline on. That allows you to open that area up. You want me to show you what I mean? Hold on a sec. I'm going to delete those guys back out. And we'll get rid of our copy. Okay, so Karen, good question. If I turn on my outline here, let's go ahead and turn that on. And we'll turn it on down here as well. If I go to my select tool and click select point, right mouse click, split at point, notice how I no longer have a fill stitch. That is why. So that's a problem. If you're looking for a split letter with a fill, then that's a problem. So that's why we did it the way that we did it. You make a copy and a paste and you're good. So let me select all and let's talk about set hole sewing. So when do you remove overlaps versus when do you set hole sewing? Setting hole sewing is when an item is totally enclosed within another one. Okay, so by that I mean, let's say you have a circle shape and you want to put a flower in the middle of it or a flower in it. The flower has to be totally contained within the base shape. Okay, so let's go back over here and look at it. We'll grab a circle and draw it just like I just said. We're going to turn a fill on and we'll do a flower on top of it. It's kind of a flower. So there we go. We're going to select them both, and I'm going to change their color here in just a second. I'm going to center them both ways. So let's change the color of our flower so you can see what's happening here. All right, so I have a yellow and orange flower in the middle. And if we look at this in stitch view mode, and let's zoom in on it, you'll notice that the red is underneath the yellow. And that's not optimal, correct? So what you would want to do is select them all, go up to Modify Overlap, and choose Set Whole Sewing. All right, so there you go. You'll notice no longer do you have the red sewing underneath your yellow, okay? And that's because those are totally contained within one another. Now, I just undid it, and I'm going to move, oops, I just undid it, and I'm going to move my flower over to the side. If I try to select that and set whole sewing, it will tell me invalid pair was selected because they are not totally contained within one another. So you would, at that point, remove overlaps is your only option. What you need to keep in mind is when you remove overlaps with an outline that has, with a shape that has an outline, you will have two outlines bumping over the top of each other. So how could we fix that? Let's think back to what I did a minute ago. Let's just put it to use in a different manner. We could select that circle. That's no longer a circle. Copy it, paste it, right? So on the first one, let's just double click it and grab it. We would turn off the outline. And on the second one, we would turn off the fill. So then let's go hide this guy for a minute. So then when we come zoom in, and we'll change this to a different color so we can see it. How about brown? Select point, right mouse click where it's going to overlap, split at point, go to the opposite side, split at point. You have that little extra piece there now. We can select it, delete it, and now let's go unhide our flower. Oh, I didn't take it far enough down. That's okay. So I can come back and grab that piece again, select point, and let's just delete that point right there. Okay. So that gives you the workaround, and then you would move this into the order of sewing that it should sew. And then you would not have all the big humps underneath it. So any questions on that one? There is, that's available in PE Design. So I don't know what you're doing, but let's see here. If you want a grid to show up, you turn your grid on. So go to your View tab with axis. I like mine with an axis, but this is your sewing area in your shape. Is that what you're wanting, Cindy? So that's the allowed stitching area right there. Wherever that grid is, that's your allowed stitching area. If I come select a different hoop, only the allowed stitching area shows up. Okay, so let me come up here and see. I had another question pop up. Okay, Sharon, you want to merge a purchase design. If you choose convert to outlines in BES4, then you can adjust it. If you don't convert to outlines, then you can't adjust a purchase design, but you always want to merge it instead of opening it. That way, if you adjust it, you will not mess up the original design. How do I get rid of the overlap on a regular design? Good question, Margaret. We're going to talk about the split stitches tool here. I've got to turn off the grid. It's very distracting for me. We all have our brains. My brain is a no grid brain. I use my guidelines instead. So if I want to see where something's lining up, I use my guidelines because I can get rid of those. All right, purchase design and PE design. Let me come over here and grab something from my import menu. I don't want to mess with something that big. All right, let's say I want to get rid of the overlap on those shoes. Okay, now, unless I convert it to outlines, I can't really do a true remove overlap, and I don't want to convert it to outlines. So what I do is I click on the piece that it needs to be removed from, go to my stitches tab, and choose the split stitches tool. You will see a ghosted image of the design on top, and then you can click around the design that you're trying to remove part of it. Double click when you get to the end, left click and drag it out of the way, make sure it's what you want, and then right click and delete it, or press delete on your keyboard. So then that overlap is gone, but you're looking at a different tool. So it's not remove overlaps, it is the split stitches tool, okay? I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. You just have to think in terms of what each tool does. The Stitches tab allows you to work with designs that are in fixed stitch format. So if you have a design, let's just give that a little chit chat here. When you select a design, if you see the Stitches tab, that means it's in fixed stitch format, simulating that it has been a purchased design. It will also have black dashed lines around it. The Stitches tab has what you can change about that design. So I can split stitches, I can divide it by color, I can convert it to blocks, or I can convert it to outlines. So that is really how you have to think about things. The tools that you have available to you based on what you've drawn or what's there. So if I've drawn something, instead of saying stitches, and I have no stitches on either of these, you'll notice I have a shapes tab at the top. That tells me these are the things that I can do with this particular item. I can convert it to stitches, convert it to offline sets, create floral pattern. If I go to my home tab, if there was something else on top of it, and I've got both items selected, I could modify overlap. So just keep that in mind. When something is in fixed stitch format, these guys right here are not available to you. Not going to happen. So if you click on a design and you see the Stitches tab, know that modify overlaps is not going to work for you. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I haven't answered up here. Does not look like it. So if you guys got any other comments, let me know. Yes, P Design is Brother's full version of digitizing software. It is a complete digitizing program. Has editing capabilities, has a design database in it to where you can catalog. It's a cataloging program. It converts designs. So it's our complete digitizing program. Our BES software is not a free software. It is another paid software. It is a customizing program. What it has in it, it has more fonts that are professionally digitized. It has word collage. There's some other tools in it that Some people find it easier to use. It's not a digitizing program. Having said that, I can bring in an FCM file and convert it to an applique. That is a scan and cut file. Fabric cutting machine is what FCM stands for. You can do word collages with it. So there are some tools available there that I don't have in PE design. They're made by two different companies. Brother Japan makes our PE design software. Pulse Embroidery Systems makes our BES4 software. That's the one that we have more input on in the US. So that's the difference between the two. I mean, there's a lot of differences between the two, but basically one is a customizing program with 200 fonts. The other one is a full digitizing program. Okay. Yes, Tana, you can purchase an additional SD card. It's called the wireless expansion kit. Okay. So if you go to ask your dealer for a BES4 wireless expansion kit, that's the additional card to add another machine to your BES4 software. I would, before trying to purchase another, just know that is the kit that Brother supports. So, and it's an 8 gigabyte card. If you buy another wireless card for somewhere else, it will not be supported by Brother. They won't be able to help you because they have to be using the same equipment type that you are. Okay. And we know that those work, they've been tested. So, that would be my first choice for you. Okay. If there are no more questions, like I said, I'm in between meetings today, so I was trying to slide in here to get you guys in before I have to start back up. But if there aren't any other questions, then I think I'm going to say goodbye for the day here in just a second. Let me see here, Bridget. You have which version of PE design do you have? So I understand you're saying, would it be worth it to learn an older version? It depends on what version you have. I mean, if we're talking version 6, it doesn't work on the newer computers. If we're talking version 9, you can start with that and start learning for it. Yes, it's always worth it to learn your software because it gives you many more tools in your arsenal. There's things that it can do that we can't do elsewhere. So I am going to show you your coupon code for today. I'm not putting one up actually I will. I have a limited number of PE design workbooks in stock right now. So this would be your coupon code for that. So I don't have a ton of them available here right now. So you guys have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next Tuesday at our regular time of 3:30. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for letting me switch it up. I do apologize but it is what it is. So thanks, Tana. I'm glad you love the books. I appreciate that. So you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next week. Bye.